So there are a number of lies that go with pornography use. I'm not going to deal with these here. It's anonymous. You have no understanding of technology if you think it's anonymous. It's harmless, not so much. We know there are tremendous ties between pornography and human trafficking. But I really want to focus on this last one. It doesn't matter. It's just pictures. We're going to talk about first how a marriage is supposed to work. You've got two people who bear the image of God, who are made in the image of God, right? The biologically wired-in attachment system, it's part of who we are. It's part of how God created us. So when we get close to someone, not just physically, but physically for sure, but not just physically, it activates this attachment system. And sex is also intricately connected with this system. It's not one and the same with it, but they're intricately connected. And so if I start, I spent time before we were married, I started spending time with my wife, and an attachment formed. So there's already a bond. And then eventually when you have sex both forms and reinforces those bonds. And not just like sex, but even anything sexual. Activates that attachment system and creates those bonds. Now, what is God doing here? What is sex meant to be? God's design is that as we give ourselves to one another, as we gaze at each other, as I see my wife as an image bearer of God and she sees me that way, and we come together to learn about ourselves and learn about each other and mirror the gospel in this, we are actually becoming more Christ-like. If I'm loving my wife as Christ intends and she's loving me as Christ intends, and we are attaching and forming that bond to each other, and we are living out the covenant and all of that, it is doing a formative work in us. We become attached to and shaped by that which holds our gaze, right? So in a perfect world, if we're all looking to Christ and we're all seeing the image of God in each other and we're all acting accordingly, then we're all becoming more like Christ in these relational contexts. And there are many verses that could support this, but 2 Corinthians 3, now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we all with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord who is the Spirit. So what I'm looking at, what I'm aiming at, what I'm fixed on. And 1 John tells us we can't see God here, but we see each other. And so what's supposed to happen in marriage is that we're gazing at each other, and it's resulting in greater Christlikeness as the biologically wired in attachment system is getting activated. It's being reinforced in our sexual union. Okay, that's how it's supposed to work. And then comes pornography. And in Romans 1, Paul writes, claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man. And he writes, therefore God gave them up in the lust of their hearts to impurity, to the dishonoring of their bodies among themselves. This is literally what we do and what happens when we use pornography. So no longer am I turning to my wife as an image bearer of God. Instead of going there, we turn to images.